Welcome to the first video of our Learn to Lead teacher training series. In this video we will be discussing Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives. Bloom's taxonomy is a framework for classifying educational objectives in terms of their cognitive complexity. It's a useful tool for teachers to use when planning lessons and assessments, and it can also help students to understand the different levels of thinking required to master a particular subject. Now, let's begin the training with our instructor, who will provide us with insightful knowledge about Bloom's taxonomy. Let's dive in and learn about this important educational framework.
Aims are general statements that provide direction and/or identify an intention to act. They identify targets, but these are not directly measurable. For example, Maria's aim is to lose weight. In education, aims state what a learner might learn or what the teacher might do. They provide a framework for planning and assessment, and they help to ensure that everyone is on the same page. There are many different types of aims, but some of the most common include knowledge aims. They focus on what students should know. For example, students will be able to name the capital cities of all 50 states. Skill aims. They focus on what students should be able to do. For example, students will be able to solve math problems using the quadratic formula. Attitude aims. They focus on what students should believe or value. For example, students will appreciate the importance of teamwork. Character aims. These aims focus on what kind of person students should strive to be. For example, students will be honest. Aims are an essential part of any educational plan. They provide a clear sense of direction and help to ensure that everyone is working towards the same goals. Goals. Goals are high-level, non-measurable statements. They are broad and open-ended. For example, to develop the ability to guess the meaning of unknown words from context. Goals are typically vague in the sense that they do not specify a time period for completion or quantity. Goals are important in education because they provide a sense of direction and purpose. They help to focus learners' attention and motivate them to achieve. Goals can also be used to assess learners' progress and identify areas where they need additional support. Here are some tips for writing effective goals in education. Make sure your goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Use action verbs to describe what you want learners to do. Be realistic about what learners can achieve in a given time frame. Share your goals with learners so that they know what they are working towards. Track learners' progress towards their goals and provide feedback as needed. By following these tips, you can write effective goals that will help learners achieve their full potential. Objectives. Objectives are statements about what is to be achieved in concrete terms. They are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. For example, read all 500 pages of the course textbook by the end of the semester. Objectives are important in education because they provide a clear understanding of what learners are expected to learn. They also help to ensure that teaching and assessment are aligned with learning outcomes. Objectives can be used to motivate learners and track their progress. They can also be used to communicate learning outcomes to parents, guardians, and other stakeholders. Here are some tips for writing effective objectives in education. Make sure your objectives are specific. What exactly do you want learners to be able to do? Make sure your objectives are measurable. How will you know if learners have achieved their objectives? Make sure your objectives are achievable. Are they realistic for the learners in your class? Make sure your objectives are relevant. Are they aligned with the learning goals of your course or program? Taba, 1962, identified two types of educational objectives: general objectives and specific objectives. General objectives are broad, overarching statements that shape the overall goals of education. For example, a general objective could be to foster critical thinking and problem-solving skills in students across all subjects and grade levels. Specific objectives, on the other hand, are more focused and define the intended learning outcomes for specific lessons or activities. For instance, a specific objective might be, by the end of this math unit, students will be able to solve linear equations with two variables using substitution method. Now let's dive into Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives. A taxonomy is a cumulative, hierarchical system for describing, classifying, and sequencing learning activities. A classification system, a way of categorizing items into naturally related groups such as plants, animals. Performance objectives or questions. Play button. The educational taxonomy calls for the classification of learning into three domains. Play button cognitive domain. Play button affective domain. Play button psychomotor domain. We will discuss each of them in detail in our next slides. The cognitive domain. The cognitive domain is one of the three domains of learning, along with the affective domain and the psychomotor domain. The cognitive domain refers to the mental processes involved in learning, such as thinking, remembering, understanding, and problem-solving. The cognitive domain is an important part of education, as it helps students to develop their thinking skills and to become more effective learners. By setting clear objectives in the cognitive domain, educators can ensure that students are learning the knowledge and skills they need to succeed in school and in life. The cognitive domain is also important for creativity, as it allows students to think critically and to come up with new ideas. By challenging students to think outside the box and to solve problems in new ways, educators can help them to develop their creativity and to become more innovative thinkers. Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy is a framework for classifying cognitive behaviors. It was developed by Benjamin Bloom and his colleagues in the 1950s, and it has been used by educators ever since. Bloom's taxonomy divides cognitive behaviors into 6 categories, ranging from fairly simple to more complex. These categories are knowledge. This is the lowest level of cognitive behavior, and it involves the recall or recognition of facts. Comprehension. This level involves understanding the meaning of facts. Application. This level involves using knowledge to solve problems or complete tasks. Analysis. This level involves breaking down information into its component parts and understanding how the parts relate to each other. Synthesis. This level involves putting together information to create new ideas or products. Evaluation. This level involves making judgments about the value of information or products. Let's discuss each of these levels one by one. Knowledge. The first level of Bloom's taxonomy is knowledge. This level focuses on the storage and retrieval of information. Students at the knowledge level can recall specific facts or bits of information, terminology or definitions, and universals and abstractions such as principles, theories, and structures. For example, a student at the knowledge level might be able to recall the capital of France, Paris. Define the term noun. Identify the 3 branches of government. Explain the theory of evolution. Knowledge level objectives are important because they lay the foundation for higher level thinking skills. If students do not have a strong foundation of knowledge, they will not be able to understand and apply information in more complex ways. However, it is important to note that knowledge level objectives are not the only important type of objective. Students also need to develop skills in comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. By focusing on all levels of Bloom's taxonomy, educators can help students to become well-rounded learners. Comprehension. The second level of cognitive domain is comprehension. This level involves understanding the meaning of information. Students at the comprehension level can interpret information, translate it into different forms, and define terms. For example, a student at the comprehension level might be able to Interpret a poem by explaining the meaning of the imagery. Translate a passage from English to their own language. Define the term like democracy in their own words. Comprehension level objectives are important because they allow students to take information that they have learned and make sense of it. This is essential for students to be able to use information in meaningful ways. Tip for creating comprehension level objectives. Use verbs that indicate understanding. For example, explain, interpret, translate, and define. Application and analysis. The third level of Bloom's taxonomy is application, that involves using information to solve problems or complete tasks. Students at the application level can use information that they have learned in a new and different context. Analysis. The fourth level of Bloom's taxonomy involves breaking down information into its component parts and understanding how the parts relate to each other. This could involve identifying the main points of a text, distinguishing between fact and opinion, or analyzing the structure of an argument. Examples of how application and analysis can be used in the classroom. Application. Students might be asked to use a formula to solve a math problem, apply a historical concept to a current event, or use a scientific principle to design an experiment. Analysis. Students might be asked to identify the main points of a text, distinguish between fact and opinion, or analyze the structure of an argument. Tip for creating application and analysis level objectives. Use verbs that indicate application or analysis. For example, use solve, apply, design, identify, distinguish, and analyze. Synthesis and evaluation. The fifth level of cognitive domain is synthesis, which involves combining parts in a new and creative way to create something that did not exist before. This could involve creating a new product, developing a new theory, or writing a piece of creative writing. Evaluation. The sixth level of cognitive domain involves making judgments about the value of information or products. This could involve evaluating the quality of a piece of writing, the effectiveness of a marketing campaign, or the fairness of a law. Examples of how synthesis and evaluation can be used in the classroom. Synthesis. Students might be asked to create a new product, develop a new theory, or write a piece of creative writing. Evaluation. Students might be asked to evaluate the quality of a piece of writing, the effectiveness of a marketing campaign, or the fairness of a law. Tip for creating synthesis and evaluation level objectives. Use verbs that indicate synthesis or evaluation. For example, create, develop, write, evaluate, judge, and assess. Activities may involve creating projects, participating in debates, or writing essays. Affective domain. The affective domain is concerned with the development of attitudes, beliefs, and values. It is the part of Bloom's taxonomy that deals with how we feel about things. Examples of affective objectives. Demonstrate respect for others. Adopt a positive attitude towards learning. Commit to following ethical or moral behavior. How to teach affective objectives. There are many ways to teach affective objectives. Some effective strategies include role-playing. This can help students to explore different perspectives and develop empathy for others. Discussion. This can help students to share their thoughts and feelings about a particular topic. Service learning. This can help students to apply their learning to real-world situations and develop a sense of civic responsibility. Reflection. This can help students to think about their own values and beliefs and how they can be applied in their lives. The affective domain is an important part of learning because it can help students to develop the following qualities. Motivation. Students who are motivated are more likely to be engaged in their learning and to achieve their goals. Resilience. Students who have a positive attitude and a strong sense of self-efficacy are more likely to bounce back from setbacks and challenges. Interpersonal skills. Students who are able to respect others and work cooperatively are more likely to be successful in school and in life. Citizenship. Students who are committed to ethical and moral behavior are more likely to be positive contributors to their communities. Affective domain is divided into 5 categories: receiving, responding, valuing, organization, characterization. Let's delve into each category one by one. Receiving. The first level of the affective domain is receiving. This level involves the learner's awareness of and willingness to attend to stimuli. Students at the receiving level are able to be aware of the existence of stimuli. For example, they can be aware of the sounds of different musical instruments. Willingly attend to stimuli. For example, they can choose to listen to a piece of music or watch a video. Selectively attend to stimuli. For example, they can focus on the melody of a song or the lyrics. How to teach receiving. There are many ways to teach receiving. Some effective strategies include using visuals. Visuals can help students to focus their attention and to be more aware of the stimuli around them. Using auditory stimuli. Auditory stimuli can also help students to focus their attention and to be more aware of the stimuli around them. Using kinesthetic stimuli. Kinesthetic stimuli can help students to be more aware of their own bodies and to be more present in the moment. Using mindfulness exercises. Mindfulness exercises can help students to focus their attention and to be more aware of the present moment. Responding. The second level of the affective domain involves the learner's active attention to stimuli and includes acquiescence, willing responses, and feelings of satisfaction. Students at the responding level are able to acquiesce to stimuli. For example, they may agree to listen to a piece of music or watch a video. Make willing responses. For example, they may ask questions during a group discussion or volunteer to help with a project. Experience feelings of satisfaction. For example, they may feel happy or fulfilled when they learn something new or complete a task. Some effective strategies to teach responding. Active learning strategies that involve students doing something, rather than just listening or watching. This can include activities such as group discussions, debates, role-playing, and hands-on projects. Positive reinforcement. It can help students to associate positive feelings with responding to stimuli. This can include things like giving students praise, stickers, or other rewards. Creating a positive learning environment. A positive learning environment is one where students feel safe, respected, and supported. Valuing. Involves the learner's acceptance, preference, and commitment to beliefs and evaluations. Students at the valuing level are able to accept certain beliefs and evaluations. For example, they may accept the belief that everyone deserves access to healthcare. Prefer certain beliefs and evaluations over others. For example, they may prefer the belief that healthcare should be a universal right over the belief that healthcare should be a privilege. Commit to certain beliefs and evaluations. For example, they may commit to working to make healthcare more accessible to everyone. Some effective strategies to teach valuing include using open-ended discussions that can help students to explore different beliefs and evaluations and to form their own opinions. Providing opportunities for students to make choices. Encouraging students to reflect on their values would help students to clarify their values and to understand how their values affect their behavior. Teachers can model valuing behavior by demonstrating their own commitment to certain beliefs and evaluations. Organization. The fourth level of the affective domain involves the learner's conceptualization of values and the organization of a value system. Students at the organization level are able to conceive of their values as a system. For example, they may be able to identify the different values that are important to them and how those values relate to each other. Organize their values in a way that makes sense to them. For example, they may prioritize their values or group them into different categories. Use their value system to guide their behavior. For example, they may make decisions based on their values or take actions that are consistent with their values. How to teach organization. There are many ways to teach organization, like using case studies that help students to explore different value systems and to see how different values can lead to different outcomes. Providing opportunities for students to reflect on their values, to identify their values and to understand how their values affect their behavior. Encouraging students to discuss their values with others. Characterization. The fifth and final level of the affective domain is characterization. This level is the highest level of complexity and involves behavior that is consistent with a generalized set of values and a characterization or philosophy of life. Students at the characterization level are able to act in accordance with their values. For example, they may volunteer their time to help others or speak out against injustice. Develop a philosophy of life. For example, they may develop a set of beliefs about the meaning of life or the purpose of existence. Live their lives in accordance with their philosophy of life. For example, they may make choices that are consistent with their beliefs or values. Ways to teach characterization. Using role-playing to help students to explore different philosophies of life and to see how different values can lead to different behaviors. Providing opportunities for students to reflect on their values and to understand how their values affect their behavior. Encouraging students to discuss their values and philosophy of life with others. Psychomotor domain. The psychomotor domain is one of the three domains of learning, alongside the cognitive and affective domains. The psychomotor domain involves aspects of physical movement and coordination. It is the domain of learning that deals with the body and how it moves. The psychomotor domain is important because it allows us to interact with the world around us. We use our bodies to learn, to work, to play, and to express ourselves. The psychomotor domain is also important for our physical health and well-being. The psychomotor domain is often integrated with the cognitive and affective domains. For example, when we learn a new skill, we need to use our cognitive abilities to understand the skill and our affective abilities to motivate ourselves to learn the skill. Psychomotor domain is divided into 6 categories. Play button reflex movements. Play button fundamental movements. Play button perceptual abilities. Play button physical abilities. Play button skilled movements. Play button non-discursive communication. Now we will dive into each category one by one. Reflex movements. Reflex movements are involuntary movements that occur in response to a stimulus. They are controlled by the spinal cord, which does not need to send signals to the brain in order to initiate the movement. There are 2 types of reflex movements: segmental reflexes and intersegmental reflexes. Segmental reflexes involve only one spinal segment. For example, the knee-jerk reflex is a segmental reflex. When the doctor taps your knee with a reflex hammer, it sends a signal to the spinal cord. The spinal cord then sends a signal back to the muscle in your leg, causing it to contract. Intersegmental reflexes involve more than one spinal segment. For example, the withdrawal reflex is an intersegmental reflex. When you touch a hot stove, it sends a signal to the spinal cord. The spinal cord then sends signals to multiple muscles in your arm and hand, causing them to contract and move your arm away from the stove. Both segmental and intersegmental reflexes are important for our survival. They allow us to respond quickly to stimuli in our environment and to protect ourselves from harm. Fundamental movements are the basic building blocks of all physical activity. They include walking, running, jumping, pushing, and manipulating. Walking is a fundamental movement that allows us to move from one place to another. It is a complex movement that requires the coordination of many different muscle groups. Running is a fundamental movement that allows us to move more quickly than we can walk. It is a more complex movement than walking and requires even more coordination. Jumping is a fundamental movement that allows us to move vertically. It is a complex movement that requires the coordination of many different muscle groups and the use of our arms to help propel us into the air. Pushing is a fundamental movement that allows us to move objects away from us. It is a complex movement that requires the coordination of many different muscle groups. Manipulating is a fundamental movement that allows us to interact with objects in our environment. It is a complex movement that requires the coordination of many different muscle groups and the use of our hands. Perceptual abilities. Perceptual abilities are the ways in which we take in information from our surroundings and make sense of it. They include kinesthetic, visual, auditory, tactile, and coordination abilities. Kinesthetic abilities allow us to know where our body is in space and how it is moving. They are important for activities such as dancing, playing sports, and using tools. Visual abilities allow us to see the world around us. They are important for activities such as reading, writing, and driving. Auditory abilities allow us to hear sounds. They are important for activities such as listening to music, talking on the phone, and warning others of danger. Tactile abilities allow us to feel objects and surfaces. They are important for activities such as cooking, playing with clay, and giving massages. Coordination abilities allow us to move our bodies smoothly and efficiently. They are important for activities such as walking, running, and playing sports. All of these perceptual abilities are important for our everyday lives. They allow us to interact with our surroundings, learn new things, and enjoy our hobbies. Physical abilities. Physical abilities are the skills and qualities that allow us to move our bodies effectively. They include endurance, strength, flexibility, and reaction response time. Endurance is the ability to sustain physical activity for a long period of time. It is important for activities such as running, swimming, and playing sports. Strength is the ability to exert force. It is important for activities such as lifting weights, carrying objects, and playing sports. Flexibility is the ability to move our joints through a full range of motion. It is important for activities such as yoga, dance, and gymnastics. Reaction response time is the time it takes us to react to a stimulus. It is important for activities such as driving, playing sports, and avoiding accidents. All of these physical abilities are important for our overall health and well-being. They also allow us to participate in a variety of physical activities and sports. Skilled movements. Skilled movements are those that require a high level of coordination and precision. They are often performed in games, sports, dances, and other artistic activities. Some examples of skilled movements include: playing a musical instrument requires a high level of coordination between the hands and the eyes. Performing a gymnastics routine requires a high level of flexibility and strength. Dancing a ballet requires a high level of grace and precision. Playing a sport requires a high level of reaction time and coordination. Skilled movements can be learned through practice and repetition. They can also be improved through physical conditioning and mental focus. Non-discursive communication is a form of communication that does not use words. It can be expressed through posture, gestures, facial expressions, and creative movements. Posture is the way we hold our bodies. It can be used to express a variety of emotions, such as confidence, sadness, or anger. For example, if we stand up straight with our shoulders back, we are expressing confidence. If we hunch over with our shoulders slumped, we are expressing sadness. Gestures are the movements of our hands and arms. They can be used to emphasize our words, to express emotions, or to communicate without words. For example, if we point our finger at someone, we are expressing emphasis. Facial expressions are the movements of our faces. They can be used to express a variety of emotions, such as happiness, sadness, or anger. For example, if we smile, we are expressing happiness. Creative movements are movements that are not everyday movements. They can be used to express emotions, to tell stories, or to simply create art. For example, if we dance, we are expressing emotions through our movements. If we mime a scene from a play, we are telling a story through our movements.